Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. I am the Zatz man, and I have no idea what I'm doing with my life. I've been seeing a lot of those I'm 30 and I'm a loser kind of videos being recommended to me. And I thought, hey, why don't I throw my hat into the ring? Hat go. It's like a Pokemon. If you're new here, this is a little bit different from the usual style of video that I make. Today I am doing improv at the Apollo. Why am I at the Apollo? So I thought this time, instead of overthinking my existential angst, I will make a video speaking off the top of my head. And it's a lot harder than I thought it would be. This is why I'm not wearing the suit jacket, so you can look at my arms. Look at my arms. They got veins. I'm hoping that you can maybe take something out of my ramblings, and maybe through the process of me doing this, I can learn something about myself that I can then relate to you, because life. Yeah.
Dance with me, Lois. Dance the dance of life.
Usually at the end of the summer, I tend to become very reflective and introspective. I write a lot and I make a lot of notes. I write a lot in my journal. And this year I noticed something a little bit different when I was reflecting on my writing. I was looking back years and years and noticing recurring patterns in what I was doing. I became aware that I was looking back at the past, and that in the past, I was looking back to the past. In the past, this realization hit me like a ton of bricks, because it's always at the end of the summer where I try to look forward and I try to picture where I'm going or what I'm doing, reflecting on years past, hopes for the future, hopes that I can change. And I always end up back in the same spot, which is very obnoxious. And I can sense familiar patterns developing. And I know that this time, if I don't do something different, I will just fall back into the same patterns, the same repetitions. So I have a general idea for how most people end up finding the thing that they want to do, or things that they find meaningful in life. Either they have a grand vision for themselves where they go, this is the thing I want to do, and then they go and take steps to achieve that. Or they just end up trying a bunch of different things and they end up falling into something and they fall in love with what it is they're doing, or they find a groove and that groove kind of takes them forward and that momentum pushes them in the right direction that sustains their life. I've never had this sort of grandiose vision idea of like where I see myself in 5 years, where I want to go. So naturally I ended up dabbling in a bunch of different interests that I like, and I end up doing them, and I am fairly competent at doing those things, but I either lose interest over time, or the opportunity arises to pursue it further and then fear gets in the way and I end up not doing that, or I find another interest and I get really obsessed with that, but then that takes me away from the other thing, and it just becomes a confusing mess of my life. I feel like I've never had this sort of solid foundation for something that felt proactive in my life that I was aiming for or striving towards. A lot of areas of my life were very scattered, whether that be my work, my friendships, my personal achievements, my personal interests. Everything kind of feels like it's on its own separate track in its own separate area, and nothing really congeals together in a way that makes sense, which is weird because I know what I have to do to achieve things, and I know what I have to do to make it happen. A lot of life is very straightforward. You just end up getting in your own way of knowing what you have to do and then not doing it because of fear or frustration. If I do sort of dream of something, I end up recoiling in fear at even trying to want to achieve that, Needless to say, I've always felt like I haven't lived up to my potential because I've been afraid of going after things that I want. It could be a small thing, it could be a big thing. It could be, going up to a cute girl and saying hi, and then staring at them for 5 seconds. That's how you pick up women. You just go, hi, and you stare at them for 5 seconds, and they go, hi. I think that with a lot of activities or people or work, I didn't necessarily get the correct amount of positive reinforcement where I would want to pursue the thing forward, or I would lose interest in it and I would find lack of meaning there, and I would try to generate the meaning myself, but I could not. I think what makes it very difficult with these activities is that I tend to be a tryhard, in that I will put maximum effort into the thing I'm doing to try to challenge myself and do better, always thinking that there's a better way of doing this. And even if I make something that people perceive as good, it's not going to be good enough because it can always be better. And I always have in my head this objective metric of how good a thing can be. I think it's a combination of the try-hardness with the never being good enough. It doesn't create the positive reinforcement that I need to sustain myself in that area. So I end up just losing interest completely, or I end up burning out. I'm trying to solve my existential angst as I'm making the video, which is very hard to do. When I think about what stops me from going out, from wanting to make friends, meet people, do activities, etc., it usually stems from not having a solid foundation of something that I feel sustains my life financially, through giving me meaning or purpose along those lines. That makes sense, right? That makes sense, right? If I had that and create that foundation for myself, it almost creates like a positive feedback loop where like you feel good because you're creating things in your life, and it creates more things in your life that make you feel good, and it just spirals from there, which is good. Part of me never knows what people want from me or what people expect from me. This has been a recurring theme throughout my life, where I feel like if I only knew the rules of the game, I would be able to play the game well and do it well. But unfortunately, there aren't that many rules to follow sometimes, especially when it comes to making videos on the internet or making content. You never know what does well or what people will resonate with, or what will feel like an expression of yourself that will also mesh well with what people want as well. I managed to make some videos that have done fairly well, and I like them, and I like making them that way. But I always imagine what it would be like if I could do something a little different, and maybe something that's not as pressure inducing as those ones, not where I'm trying so hard, almost resist that try-hardedness, where I can just be myself and discover like a different dimension to what I can express and what I can create. And I think like on a meta level, this is me sort of manifesting that proactivity into the world that has been lacking with everything that I've been doing so far. Usually I would just rot in existential angst, then write a video and then get over it. But this time I felt that I had to do something different, where I had to say words to a camera and express it through this way, because I feel like doing this will make me be better. I was planning on making this video for about 2 weeks now, but I've been procrastinating, because you can sort of sense when you're on the verge of doing something that you should be doing and that you ought to be doing, but you're not doing it. So you end up procrastinating more and more and more, and you're like, I should be doing this thing, but you don't end up doing it, and that's not great. So eventually you kind of reach a point where you're like, I'm 36, I'm turning 37. I've been doing some things that have been working, have been giving me positive reinforcement, and other things I know have not. I know what I should be doing, and that if I want to achieve certain things, I need to put more effort into this. I need to be proactive, I need to organize, I need to manage my time better. I just need to do it, because I know like once I do it, like it's fine, like I'll get over myself. It's just like there's part of me that always feels like it's impossible, like I can never do it. Now I think about potentially getting 100,000 YouTube subscribers or even more. You know, you gotta dream big. 100 billion subscribers. That's more than the human population. But I have a realist part of myself that tells me that it's impossible. Not necessarily impossible, but improbable. And that you're better off, you know, editing videos for other people, or finding side jobs or gigs that will pay your rent, that will leave you tired, but okay, I guess, because it's work and you need money to live. But the frustration isn't necessarily the work itself, but it's knowing that you can achieve more with your life, and you're not doing that. And yeah, that's the frustration. That's the annoyance. I don't want to eat a banana soon. I really want to eat a banana soon. Intuitively, I've always had a sense of the direction of which my life is going, and how to orient myself towards what it is I should be doing, or what it is I ought to be doing. I think you do too. I think you sort of have a sense of that, but either something's getting in the way, either fear or whatever. It's just a matter of doing it and getting over the internal emotion and the internal hurdles in order to do it. I will say that time does give you perspective and wisdom that knowledge cannot. For instance, you may know exactly what you need to do or steps you need to take to improve your life, but you've not necessarily experienced a whole lot of going through shit where you get to the end of that and you go, oh, I went through all this shit. I've been alive long enough so I know not to, do all that again, and I can be more positive moving forward. I want to do something different now. I want to live better. Time gives you that wisdom because life just keeps going. It doesn't stop. You don't reach a point and life is like, okay, we're done here. You can take a break. It just keeps going. And that's neither good nor bad. It just is. I think that's why I made the video about turning 30, because I turned 30 and life just kept on chugging along like usual. It wasn't like a big, haha, now you're 30. It just happened and life continued. When you sort of realize that life just continues and goes on and on and on and on, and that there's not gonna be like one point or one clear moment where you're just gonna be like, okay, now I gotta change. You just gotta, do it. I always find it hard to put myself into other people's shoes and give advice. This would be so much easier if I could just say a bunch of stuff and be like, this is what you gotta do. This is what you gotta do. But I can't live your life for you. And in trying to give advice to people, it's like I'm always trying to account for every single different variable of life. And I cannot do that. All I can do is speak on my experience and what I've gone through and relate that in a way to you that hopefully it can jive something in your brain that helps you along your life journey. Sometimes I feel that that's not good enough, and so I keep it from people and I don't express it, but once I do, I end up feeling better and other people end up feeling better too, so I don't know why I do it, and I should. Run along sentences. Anyways, I don't know what I'm doing, but I know if I keep doing stuff, eventually something will click and it'll all make sense. So I think the lesson is to just keep doing stuff. You keep making stuff and you keep putting yourself out there. If you keep putting yourself out there, good things will happen. If you keep learning and adjusting and working and all the cliched stuff you hear, cliches. I always feel like I have to wrap these videos up in a nice little bow where I go, this is the lesson, this is the life lesson. Gather around, children. Here's what we learned today. We learned to share. Yay! But sometimes there isn't necessarily a neat conclusion to the video. I need to eat some Greek yogurt. I need Greek yogurt, berries, bananas. I think it'll be good. I love you. Yeah. So when I think back on the process of making this video, I think all I had to do was eat some food. It makes me a little nervous because I haven't really made something like this ever, and I'm not sure how it will turn out. I'm not sure if I'm gonna look back on this while I'm editing the video and think I'm making anything coherent happen. I can't even speak. If I didn't do it like this, I knew I would be selling myself short. And yeah, I need to get better. Okay, are we good? Am I in frame? I can't see anything, but I have to look at the camera. I have to say, hey, hello, hi. Welcome. This is a little bit usual. Hello. Hi. My mind goes blank right away. Hello. So I tried recording a version of this video yesterday, and it did not turn out the way I anticipated. I'm always trying to think of the perfect thing to say right away, and that ends up stifling me. So I'm just gonna get right into it. Hi! Hello, this is me. I am me. Ironically, making a video like this is a lot harder than my usual type of video. I think what's stopping me right now is that I am torn in between merely talking out into a void for my own sake versus turning this into a video to be posted on youtube.com. And I'm not sure, every time I get on a little tangent, which would be beneficial for myself, I end up stopping myself because I think about the audience. I think about you, hypothetical you who's watching. I get frustrated. I get stifled. It's literally in the editing and the writing process, at least when I'm editing. I have something to work off of. I have a goal. I have something I'm working towards. With this, I have a vague concept of what I want to say and what I want to do, but it's not the words. This is what it is. And I wish I could speak better. I wish I was more articulate. I wish I didn't feel as stupid as I feel in this moment right now. But again, I know it's just a skill that you have to work at. You have to get better at. I'm not used to talking in front of the camera without a script, with nothing to really work off of. And yesterday was awful. Yesterday, particularly, I was not saying things well, and I can feel myself slow down in the moment, but watching myself back, I realize that these pauses are normal, but it's a weird feeling when you're speaking in the moments right now versus watching yourself back. You realize when you watch yourself back that it's not as bad as you think it is. The pauses are natural, but with the way you've been making videos for the past, I don't know how many years it's been. I think 2021 is when I started and I made the first video. And just being able to hyper edit and cut out all the pauses, cut out the way you naturally speak, make it engaging for an audience. With the way you've been doing that, it's made you forgotten how you naturally talk, how you naturally speak in this way, and you shut off that part of yourself which would be beneficial for other people. And you've been doing this your whole life, you know? You've been doing this your whole life. Gonna drink some tea. The exercise is just to get in front of the camera. You just do this without a script, without anything. I was using TikToks a few months ago to sort of do this, but I found that I didn't enjoy the medium of TikTok with its everything being dictated by a swipe and the algorithm, and you have essentially no control and no say. And I became very self-aware of the paradigm of TikTok, which prevented me from actually just being a regular person, which is something I am trying to do right now with this video, is just be a normal person on camera and talk like I would normally talk, in a way where I'm talking to an audience, but it's not the way I usually do it. Yeah. Yesterday I tried filming a version of this video, which did not turn out the greatest. I was stumbling over my words. I felt stifled. I was not in the zone. I was in the opposite of the zone. I was in the unzone. And I think the goal with my video yesterday was I want to speak how I normally speak, day to day, like a regular human being, not in this hyper edited, hyper scripted sort of way that I've been doing things on YouTube for the past, I don't know, 3-4 years. How's it been? I lose track of time since the pandemic happened. So, yeah. And I think part of me was torn between making something fully authentic versus making something inauthentic, in the sense of I wanted to speak fully, freely, off the cuff, and have that be the video without any editing, or minimal editing at the very least. But as I was making it, my thoughts came out all disjointed. There was no clarity to what I was saying. I lost track of what I was doing, and I began to say to myself, oh, you can just edit this in the DaVinci Resolve. You can just make it better later. And when I went to the editing bay, when I loaded it up in DaVinci, it was just nonsense. And I lost all motivation to do anything with that. The only motivation I had was to try again and try filming this again, having gone through that experience before and now doing this now. So this is a different style of video than what I usually make, and that's a little bit scary, because when you've been making videos and when you've been creating art or artwork in one way and you try something different, it's a little bit frightening, because you're not sure, one, if you're able to execute on your idea, and two, if an audience will be receptive to that and how the algorithm will react to it, because, you know, audiences. I really enjoy making video essays. I enjoy making commentary videos. I enjoy hyper editing, making it with all the memes and the cuts and the little graphics and all that. That's very enjoyable for me. But what I've been finding lately is that if I have to do that all the time, it burns me out in a way where I keep on raising the bar for myself higher and higher and higher. And it gets to a point where I'm not creating consistently enough for my own creative satisfaction, let alone for YouTube.com, because they just want all the content all the time. And I am not necessarily satisfied with the rate in which I'm creating, and how I've been making videos is a factor in that, given how long they take for me to make. I'm not going to change everything that I do. I'm still going to make video essays and commentary and scripted content, because that's what I really enjoy doing. That's where I feel like I can thrive. This time, however, the writing process was feeling a little bit stifled for me, so I thought, you know, in order to grow as a human being, I needed to do something like this. I needed to express myself in a way that is alien to what I usually do, because sometimes I feel like an alien when I'm actually, you know, speaking to a camera, scripted. I've always kind of felt like an alien. I'm gonna drink some tea. I've always felt like an alien in a way that I don't know what people want from me or what people expect from me. I'm not sure what the right level of effort is for what it is I do, given the output that is received back. I tend to be very much a try hard at what I do. I like to put in maximum effort, and part of that is never feeling like what I do would be good enough for people to receive that. And that's been a recurring theme for everything that I do. Yeah, the concept for this video was partially inspired by seeing a lot of those I'm 30 and I'm a loser kind of videos, where I saw a bunch of creators basically talking off the top of their head about their lives. So it's not that I'm necessarily trying to jack that trend and make a video in that style, but I related to it a lot, so I thought I would take what I related to it and make it into a video myself and then express that. And even if this video doesn't do as well as other videos on the channel, I need to destroy my ego. I cannot continue thinking in a way where I'm like, oh, is this a 1 out of 10? Is this a 3 out of 10? Is this a 5 out of 10? Because I know intuitively I like numbers. I like looking at numbers. And it gets to a point where you start to feel stifled by those numbers, because you always think, you're like, okay, now I have to make a video like that in order to perform that well. And if I don't make a video like those, it won't perform as well, and the numbers will yell at me, and I won't grow the channel to where I want it to be. So the topic I want to talk about today is that I'm 36 years old and I've not really had any sort of sense of what I want to do with my life or where I'm going with my life. And this has been the recurring motif. I'm using motif a lot. I tend to get on a word and I say that word a lot. So if you hear the word motif or theme or whatever, just know it's because I'm not used to talking off the top of my head and this is how it is. Usually at the end of summertime, I tend to become very reflective and introspective. I journal a lot. I journal a lot. I felt my voice crack. I journal a lot. I go on many walks in the woods or in parks along the dusty old trails. I look at trees, the bees, the birds, the dogs. I do all that and I reflect and I go, ooh, post-summertime nostalgia, which to me is always reflective of you're thinking about where you came from before, you're thinking about the summer, and you're hopeful for the year ahead, and you're thinking, I hope things change this time and I make a real difference this year, and this year will be great. It's associated with me because usually September, again, it's going back to school, and then you get into October, my birthday. I'm turning 37 next month, so yeah, time keeps on ticking, ticking, ticking into the future. Da-na-na-na-na. So I found myself going into this pattern where I would look at writings that I would previously have. I immediately just get into my own head about what I'm saying. I lose my train of thought because I just end up getting in my own head of like where am I going with this? What am I doing with this? I picture an audience clicking on the video at 2x speed being like, get to the point, get to the point, get to the point, get to the point. It's very interesting watching your mind create thoughts and delusions as they're happening. Because really, I know this is fine. Really, I know that if I just continue talking and I kept on saying whatever it is I need to say, it would all turn out well. But I end up stopping myself. I end up stifling myself. I end up getting in my own head. And I think that's why I'm at the age that I'm at. And I've not created a clear vision for myself, and I've not created the will to change. Bell hooks. I think that's her book. I don't know. I think I read it, maybe. I don't know. So I get reflective at the end of the summer. And this summer in particular, because I found myself at a crossroads yet again, I was looking at a bunch of my old writing. Except this time, what I realized was I was doing the same thing I was doing in the moment in the previous writing of what I was doing. Let me explain that. Basically, I was looking back at myself at previous iterations of myself, realizing that previous iterations of myself was doing the thing I was doing right now, which was looking back at even previous iterations of myself, trying to figure out, oh, why can't I do the things I want to do? Oh, why am I not achieving things? Where am I going? What is my purpose? What is meaning? La 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 la. And having that realization kind of brought me here, and I thought to myself, I have to do something a little bit different. I have to go in a different way. I have to act differently. Otherwise, I will just keep repeating the same patterns over and over again. Because I have a sense that I know intuitively what it is I need to do. I just have this pattern of not doing it, either due to fear or some perceived lack of meaning with the thing that I am doing. So when I think back to all the activities and all the hobbies that I found meaningful, that felt like me, that I felt alive in, a lot of the structure of those activities were already set. All the parameters were already set. so that all I had to do was thrive within the system that was created for me. So an example of this is I used to play hockey in high school, and I was a goaltender. And I remember the first time I played goalie, and everything just clicked in a way where it was exhilarating and I felt alive at the same time. My fellow goalies, shout out in the comments if you are also a goalie. It's such a good feeling when you stop the puck, when you like get blocker saves, pad saves, stacking the pads. The best feeling in the world is robbing someone with a glove save, especially if they're in on the break. It's amazing, and all you have to do within the game is just thrive within the game. All you have to do is stop the pucks every single time. That's your one goal. That's what you gotta do, and you just get into the game flow, and it feels amazing. I had a dream when I was in high school that I wanted to play professional hockey, even though I could not skate. I wanted to work on that skill, but fear was sort of holding me back then because I didn't want to, bother anyone with like my silly dream. I didn't want to say like, hey, I want to practice skating so I can be a goalie, so I can play in the NHL, because I think I could do this thing and I want to work on this skill. In hindsight, it might have been a bit impractical, but there's still always that lingering thought of why didn't I at least try to go for it, in the sense that if I tried and then failed, then I'd be like, okay, at least I tried, but I didn't even put the effort into trying, into taking the next step. Like maybe I could have gotten skilled enough to join a league where I made some friends, and those friends could have helped me in a different way in my life at that certain time period of my life. It's not necessarily about the dream big, the NHL dream. It's about taking different actions, different steps that would have felt more in line with me. I would have felt more in line with, being a goaltender, being a part of a team, making friends that way. And that would have benefited my life in a different way. It would have felt more in sync with what it is I wanted to do. But I graduated high school, nothing came of that. And as I went to university, another interest popped into my radar, which was playing No Limit Texas Hold'em online and offline. I really like playing poker. It's one of those things I played with my family growing up. And when the online poker boom happened, I hopped on that train and I started playing poker tournaments, staying up late nights, grinding, working on my skills, studying the game, learning the game. Poker's a very simple game to learn, but it's very difficult to master in the sense that there's so many dynamics that go on at the same time. So many different ways hands can play out at different points in the tournament. It's incredibly thrilling when you're going deep in a tournament late at night, where at any moment you could get a big hand and become the chip leader and win the tournament, or you can crash out immediately and lose in two hands. That's the nature of the game, and I really enjoyed playing poker for the longest time. I made a lot of money doing that. Well, relative for the time, I made a lot of money doing that. Except for the fact that poker is technically gambling, and my parents did not approve of that, so I could not tell them about this other interest that I had, which was playing poker and being semi-good at it. So I was in school, I had university as my main thing, and I had poker as a side thing. And about 2 years into university, after making tens of thousands of dollars online, after winning a bunch of tournaments, after, succeeding at this thing where, again, I met cool people, I made some friends, I had this other thing that was secretive and cool, and I felt alive while doing it, my email account was hacked. And because of that, my poker account was hacked. And somebody then joyrided my account into zero. All those hours spent playing tournaments, working at my game, all that was just gone over the course of a day. And I remember sitting in class the next day, not necessarily shell-shocked, but it was a weird feeling that, looking back on it, might have been traumatic. I had put all this effort into this thing that I cared about for many, many years. It was gone after a day, and I was indifferent to it. Part of the thing about poker is that you have to be in control of your emotions. You can't get heated or go on tilt, because because if you do, you'll lose control and you'll lose a tournament. So I became very much in control of my emotions while I was playing the game, and it kind of emotionally flatlined me in a way where I was a little bit disconnected from my emotions for the longest time. And then when all that was taken away from me, that emotional disconnect manifested in the whole macro event of the whole thing was taken away from me. And I reacted with emotional indifference to this thing that I cared about. And that sort of shocked me in a way where I could work hard at something for years and years and years and just have it go away in an instant, which is very much like playing tournament poker. Like any poker tournament, you lose until you win. You get used to it. And I got used to it to a point where I just had emotionally checked out. So much like poker and hockey had a structure wherein I could play according to the rules of the game and thrive within those rules, school was much like that. You know, you go to school, you do assignments, you complete essays, you get grades, you get immediate feedback for what you're doing, and you just play along according to this game that is post-secondary education. And a lot like other activities which I enjoyed throughout my life, I kind of fell into my major in university, not having a grand vision of what I wanted to do or where I was going after graduating from high school. I had many different areas of interest which were in the humanities, things like philosophy, politics, writing, English, business, not really, the humanities. So I went in undecided and ended up going into an area of interest of mine, which was philosophy. I had a vague notion after graduating from university that I was going to go to law school and do that. But again, when the time came to taking the next step into what I had to do, I faltered, I overthought it, and I ended up taking a gap year where I ended up volunteering for film sets and working in film because I developed an interest in film. So then I went to film school for a couple years, and the same thing happened again. Basically, 2 years into film school, I had another existential, what am I doing? Where am I going? Do I really want to do this? And my mental health was really bad for that and a variety of other reasons. And I ended up dropping out. The same thing happened when I had to take the next step into transitioning into another area of life. Yeah, I wrote this part down. When I have to take control over my life, I get afraid or I lose the meaning of what I'm doing. I don't see a point in playing the game. So hypothetically, I can envision someone who is in law school or in medical school, wanting to become a doctor for a variety of reasons. They have that goal, they have that thing they're aiming towards, which makes all the studying, all the hours worth it. I never really had that. I didn't really have an overarching goal that I was aiming towards. I fell into an interest and I was doing it for the sake of doing it. So when it came time to take the next step into whatever that was, fears and anxieties and not really knowing what I was doing took over again, and I switched into something else. And I've been doing that a lot. I think the reason I brought up these two activities, poker and hockey, is because the structure of the games are set for you and you can find meaning within that structure. I think it's why I've been able to go to the gym consistently for many, many years. Strangely enough, when I stopped playing poker, when the whole poker thing happened, I started going to the gym and I started lifting weights consistently. Going to the gym is very simple. You set up a workout routine and you do it. All it takes is like the physical effort into actually performing the exercises properly. You do that, you eat properly, you know what to consume on a day-to-day basis, how to count your calories, how to count your macros. Then it's just about sleep and recovery, and you just do that consistently. As long as you progressively overload and you're targeting the right muscles, you will either gain muscle, lose weight, look better, feel better, etc., etc. So I did that for many, many years, and I still do that now because going to the gym is very simple. It's very structured. The effort is almost non-existent in a way where I don't have to, I have to be like, oh, I have to go to the gym today. I'm just like, yeah, Gonna go lift some weights. This is what I do. Gonna make a meal. Gonna eat some tuna. Gonna eat my Greek yogurt and my bananas and my blueberries. My favorite snack. Gonna cook a lot of fish. I love cooking fish. And all these things are very simple and structured, and I know how to navigate within them. Life in general has not been like that for me. When I think about being 36 and not necessarily knowing what I'm doing, like, I do know what I'm doing. It's just in the sense of I don't have a solid career foundation or a solid job where I make enough financially to live as freely as I would like to live. And I've yet to find meaning in that area, whether that be I find something that creates a lot of income where I can generate meaning from that, or it's a connection of the meaning to the finances where it builds the foundation for my life where I can branch out from there. Because truthfully told, whenever I feel fine about my financial situation or where I'm at in life, everything else kind of flows naturally. But when all that is sort of stripped away and I have to be proactive and create that meaning, that's when I tend to suffer and stagnate and not feel great. Because I think for most people, it's either two ways in which they fall into things that interest them or things that give them meaning. Either they try a bunch of things and eventually they find one that really resonates with them and they create a groove through that, or they go, this is what I want to do, this is what I want to achieve, and I'm going to take steps in order to achieve that. And sometimes it's a little bit of both at the same time, where you try a little bit of things and then you create that grand vision where you're like, okay, I've tried this, now I'm going to go for that. When I think about that, in terms of my own life, I've never really had that grandiose vision. I've been mostly a dabbler and a trier of different things, whatever sort of comes my way. It was the same thing with hockey, with poker, now with YouTube. It's just something comes my way, or I intuitively know, like, I kind of want to go in this area, and I try it out, and I somewhat excel at it, I somewhat succeed at it. It was like that for many years when I used to produce music. I was very much into electronic music for many, many years. And much like with poker, it was one of those things that I could study, I could iterate on, I could make my little beats and my little synthesized grooves, and it was something I could improve upon. As part of my reflection at the end of the summer, I was looking at a bunch of my different music. I was listening to a bunch of my different music, not looking at it. If I was just looking at it, I'd be like, hey, you are music. But I was listening to it, and there was a little thought that occurred in my brain where I'm just like, why did I stop doing this thing that I enjoyed? Because I haven't made music since 2021, so it's been about 5 years after making music for, like, I started 2013, 2014, and then I made music on and off for about 7-8 years, and I got pretty decent at it and I enjoyed it, and then I just stopped. I wasn't getting enough positive reinforcement from the thing that I was doing in a way that made me sustain doing the activity itself. Coincidentally, that's around the same time I started making YouTube videos, so that might have had something to do with it. I immediately lose my train of thought. I actually wanted to make YouTube videos for many years, but I just procrastinated and I never actually did it until I did it because the pandemic made it so there was just nothing else to do. And afterwards I was so burnt out I couldn't make another video for another 6 months, I'd say. So if you're new to this channel, this is not the usual style of video that I make, but if you've been here for a while, you probably understand that I go through phases of making a couple videos, followed by an existential crisis. I make a few videos, followed by an existential crisis. So this video isn't necessarily the existential crisis. I just intuitively had a sense that I needed to do something a little bit different. Otherwise, I would just keep repeating the same patterns and I would get spiritually and creatively burnt out of what I was doing. Sometimes you just have to create more options for yourself and within those options, you have to keep trying at what it is you got to do. Like when I look at other people on this platform, when I look at other YouTubers, many of them have a sense of like who they are and what it is they want to say. And from that, their whole content identity springs. I've sort of just made videos about like whatever piques my interest, a little bit of a mixture of I think this is what interests me, what would interest an audience, etc., etc. But I never felt like I want to necessarily put myself out there for the sake of putting myself out there, if that makes sense. And part of this is just the illusion of feeling like I'll never be good enough at whatever it is I want to do, which creates lower self-esteem, which manifests in other areas of my life. Part of my frustration and my confusion is that I tend to fall into these existential crises and get a lot of angst about the creation process and making videos for this platform, for the online attention creation content sphere. Part of me just realizes that, you know, if you just remain consistent at it and you just did it more, that you'll get better at it and you'll reap the rewards of that. But another part of me recognizes that the way in which I've been doing things has not... I'm trying to get to the point. I think this is where writing helps. I've always seen writing as a tool by which to organize my thoughts in a way that is coherent, because sometimes within the moment itself, I'm not able to quite say what it is I want to say in the right way. And when I'm trying to simplify these complex thoughts and the way they connect to each other in a way that makes sense, I find myself in the moment as I'm speaking them, not able to quite speak them. And this is very frustrating, which is why I'm trying to make the video in this way so that I can learn how to do this so that I don't always have to rely on writing. Or it's not necessarily the writing itself, but it's the feeling of being stifled in those moments. If I can just untangle these knots, that I can figure out how to do it so everything will just flow better. Everything will just make sense, if that makes sense. The hard part for me in doing this is that I'm trying to bridge the gap between how I write and how I speak and create a video from that. Because I know I do not like feeling trapped in whatever it is I'm doing or whatever it is I am. Feeling trapped in your own mind and feeling trapped in life is not necessarily a great feeling. And I have been feeling a little bit trapped in the way in which I've been creating videos for this platform, and the way in which I've been structuring them and making them. And third thing, I always feel like I have to put a third thing there. I'm like, why do I have to put a third thing there? Sometimes it's just the simple thing is what it is. There is a part of me that is scared of making a video like this, and to keep on talking the way I'm talking and to keep on saying the things that I'm saying. I can feel the resistance in my brain as I'm speaking these words. It's so frustrating and stifling. It's so hard to push through what it is I'm trying to say. The moment I experienced that sort of resistance, the moment I experienced that feeling, I emotionally shut down. It's like I'm pushing up against this thing that I can't describe, and I'm frustrated because I can't describe it. And as I'm trying to describe it, I'm trying to push through and get to a point where I can clearly say what it is I want to say, but I can't say it, and I'm trying to get there, but I'm not getting there, and I'm trying to push and push and push, and I want to get to this point, but I can't quite get to this point, and I don't know where I'm going. I can recognize that there's a different version of myself where I would say those things and do that, and it's incredibly frustrating when you want to do things, but you can't do them. It's really frustrating. I think I'm okay. I think I'm alright. I'm so used to letting thoughts just fester in my mind and create illusions and demons that don't actually correlate to reality. Usually I work through that in the writing process, but I thought this time why not do it in the video process? That should be fun. This is the main thing. This is what it is. This is the through line. This is what it is. There are things I know I should be doing and things I ought to be doing, but I don't actually do them because of fear or anxiety, or I've had negative reinforcement for trying to go after things that I would want and I would enjoy, and I got my ass handed to me by life. Whether that's when I was a goalie in hockey and I didn't try to go after what it is I really wanted to do, whether that is in poker where I put in a lot of effort, a lot of years into this activity that I enjoyed, only for it to be essentially stripped away, all my achievements to be taken away from me in a matter of a day. Whether that's any other interests that I've just grown apart from, that I've lost interest in over time. I think part of me just feels on the precipice with this YouTube thing. I do like making video essays and commentaries and whatever it is I do. I like making art, but my main worry has always been, what if I do make this the main thing and then I lose interest in it, or something happens and I'm not able to create anymore? And I don't like feeling trapped with making specific types of videos in specific types of ways. I don't like that feeling of being audience captured and trying to appeal to a certain demographic or a certain kind of person. But I want to make the process easier for myself because I feel that there are different avenues which I could explore as a creative, as a human being, that I'm not necessarily doing because I feel stuck in doing things a certain way. And that thought in and of itself stifles me from maintaining the consistency necessary to make more videos or generate more ideas for what it is I do. Because I have a lot of ideas in terms of like what it is I want to do, but I just don't do them because I end up overthinking them. I end up overthinking it a lot. My life has just been a series of trying out different things, and sometimes those things work out to a certain degree and other times they do not. And I haven't necessarily found a big foundation for my life by which everything else stems from that. It's a lot of different things that I try. Nothing really sticks. And I feel like if I could create that foundation for myself by being proactive and being consistent and doing the things that I need to do and the things that I ought to do, that then I can generate that proactivity within my life and everything will grow from there, and I'll create the life that I want from that. Because up until this point, I've been very reactive in terms of, I don't feel like I have agency, I don't feel like I have direction or I have purpose that comes from me where I say, I want to go after this thing, I want to do this thing, this is what I want to do. And I've never had that. I keep trying to find that, and it keeps eluding me. But again, the solution to my own problems are simply making more creative stuff, being proactive, and doing the things that I know I should be doing. I keep saying that, I keep getting frustrated that I'm repeating the same things over and over again, which is why I think that I get frustrated, because I know what it is I ought to do. I just don't do it. There's this old song, there's this old saying, I don't know if it's like Yiddish or Hebrew, but it goes, Kol ha'olam kulo gesher tsar me'od, which means the whole world is a narrow bridge, but the main thing is to cross it like you have no fear at all. Something like that. And you kind of got to do that. It's really funny when you ran into the camera for another 10 minutes and then the camera turns off without you knowing it. And you're so in the moment that you forgot that the thing turned off and you lost all that footage. Isn't that great? Once you get the thing out of you, once you get that idea expressed and it's out into the ether, it's gone. It's expelled from your being. And you forget whatever it is point you're trying to make because you felt like you made it. And that's how I feel sometimes, where I make a point, or I'm trying to make a point, and I get to the point. And then once I made the point, I keep on overthinking it. And I keep on circling back and going over it again and again and again and again, trying to solidify what it is I know, and I end up frustrated and stifled and not feeling great. I try to think back to the concept of the video, which is that I'm 36 and I have no idea what I'm doing with my life, but I know why that is the case. I know how I got here. I know what it is to feel like this. I know how challenging it can be when you don't necessarily find things that give you foundational meaning in your life, or things in which you can generate purpose from that. I got to this point because of self-doubt and fear and not going after the things that I want to go after, or doing the things I know I ought to be doing. I just don't do them because I get frustrated and I end up not doing them. I find that a lot of times you will get in your own way from what it is you know you can achieve. And I've been very annoyed at feeling like I could achieve a whole lot more, but not living up to my potential as a human being and as a creative and just living on this earth. And while I don't necessarily think I will ever find a higher purpose or a higher calling, I know that if I keep trying, I keep trying to put in effort into what it is I'm doing, and I don't get stopped along the way from whatever crap comes into my brain that prevents me from achieving those things, then I can achieve them. I don't know what else to say. Don't forget to be kind to yourself. Forgive yourself. Remember that we're all works in progress. I believe in you. I love you. Like, that's it. That's the video. I believe in you. You can do it. That's it. That's the video. Bye. Die.
It doesn't matter what comes, fresh goes better in life. With Mentos fresh and full of life, nothing gets to you. Staying fresh, staying cool. With Mentos fresh and full of life. Fresh goes better, Mentos freshness. Fresh goes better with Mentos. I'm losing my mind! Mentos, the fresh maker.